So this is our discussion about Standard 7, I think it is. So this is one where a bunch of kids were absent, and you had to make some changes to the lesson. And what you had them do is kind of go back and refer to a previous experience that I remember either last week or the week before, where they were analyzing in groups certain sections, and then they had to get up and present their analysis of these things. So right away you let everybody know, hey, I had something else planned, but we're going to go back to this. You really took charge of the class right away with this. They all knew that, hey, we're going back to something. Yeah, once again, you had the learning objective and everything that they were going to go through the day, the groups and stuff, all of that was posted up there. And then each group was given specific tasks that they needed to answer. That seemed very clear to them. You checked for understanding with them. They seemed to understand it, and they went about their ways and they got engaged into it. And then you hopped around to the different groups, as you have every class, and really have demonstrated a really highly functioning classroom as far as how groups are managed, group understanding, collaborative working, or learning is happening.
Is this the one where, oh, I don't know if it came out of the video, but like one of the students had like a pencil case in his pocket and he was like rubbing his face with it. And it's totally in the video, that even if it's edited out, and it's really funny. I came over and I said, you don't have the pencil case.
Oh, I don't know if I remember. No, I don't.
Yeah, I'm sure I edited it because it doesn't have anything to do with this standard, but it was really funny. It's really, I'll show you. So I'm sorry.
And for that first criterion where it was, they wanted to see you make changes to a lesson, lo and behold, in the middle, you had made a mistake in there. And as I watched it, you caught it, you addressed it, you were very clear with what they needed to do, and it really didn't take much time at all for them to make this adjustment. Cross this out and put these words in right here. Mm-hmm. And the kids are so well engaged in the class that they just like go with it. And it's not didactic teaching. They have ownership, they have their own group dynamics going on, and they share the load. You don't see kids really hiding in there. There could be a couple that I would question in there, and maybe not doing as much work, but you don't really, what I don't see, Andy is a kind of a quiet leader, and he seems to take on a lot of the load, but a lot of the kids that I would expect to try to hog and be the leader in the group, I don't see that happening. And I think that's a good thing, because you do want everybody to kind of share the responsibilities in the learning activities. That's another thing I've observed while I'm watching that. So I wrote, evidence exists that your changes made a difference in the understanding of several students by the questions that were asked. So this day was kind of like a review, but then also kind of really looking, and I thought some of the kids were able to take the meaning a little bit deeper and to understand it better. And then there was even a session in the very end where you gave the students a couple of choices on things that they could work on, and then you took one student, she had a question about, I think it was the rubric. She didn't really understand the rubrics. I think I wrote it. That's what it was. And you clarified that, and you said, it's already right there. And she just didn't know that, and she needed to hear that. And I thought the way that you explained it to her, she wasn't offended, she didn't feel stupid or anything like that. It was a healthy conversation and a healthy teaching opportunity. Another question that was in the criterion was about your use of technology. Every class you're using Google Docs, or you're using Google Classroom, and the kids have their laptops and they're working collaboratively, yet on the same document for a group, which comes together as a cooperative piece in the end, that they all can access the information on. And then you also have things in there where you hold them accountable for, they all have to type it in, I think, on their own, and go through and make sure that they're interacting at least one time, going through, they've heard somebody present it, they've heard you talk about it and rehash the information and the things that they need to understand. And then you have...
then they sometimes write it into the...
yes.
Yeah.
In the collaborative document, or to make sure that they actually have to write it. So they have many different ways to remember and retain the information. So I'm curious to see what comes out in the summative assessments, where they're going to be writing their own short story. They're going to be giving an oral presentation, and is it comparing
their story to
their
the
story
novel,
with
the novel we're reading, yeah.
And then an analysis. I think all of those things are very healthy things, and one of the things that I consider is I go back to my high school experience in literature, and it wasn't anything like this. Like the words that you use in this, I think it was this lesson, is the one where you use the word illusion. You even kind of hinted and pointed back.
No, I have it on the wall.
Yeah.
It's like they've been surrounded with it. Like
and I know, like the first time I came in the classroom, I walked the walls of the whole classroom to see what's going on there and how you can use these things. And you actually use the material that's on the walls from time to time, and you use the vocabulary that's on the walls. Like today, I was reading when you were doing the interview with Andy. I was like, I'm not so sure I know what that one means exactly. If I had to explain it to somebody, I think I need to review that. And just their access to vocabulary that I wasn't exposed to exists there, and it's used in your classroom. The terminology that you use in the classroom as they analyze things are all, things that are going to support them as they go to college someday. These are like, I want my daughter to be in these classes and to interact with this type of stuff, so you're staying for many years in your school. So, I mean, again, the only thing that I gave less than exemplary was, or excelling, I forget what it is, was the one where it like asked about, and I really struggle with that because it says summative, both formative and summative. And as I explained in the last one, I know where you're headed with all this, and I agree with what you're doing. I don't know that it really matters so much that you didn't have a formal assessment, a traditional kind of assessment in the beginning, or around the beginning.
Basically, I could have taken a couple of the formative ones that I did that were larger assignments. They took a couple days to do, maybe, and I could have said, you get, this is like a grade now. Yeah. But I don't think it was necessary for that whole group of kids. They're all of a sudden going to say, why did I get a 3 and you get a 2 point, like it meant nothing at that moment, right? Because like they didn't have all the skills yet. So, and I was like prodding and like on the side, like figuring out who can do what. And there are still kids that need like super work in there, and like they haven't like done the practice with the writing that I want to do yet. But now I know, like even just looking at the things they write into the like chat thing, like I can have identified already, like, oh, this kid's not using like this grammar right. So but I don't say anything now.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't matter now. Yeah. They're not using that, but they're gonna start writing a paper, and now I know, like, oh, I'm gonna say this to you. Yeah. Right, like you're gonna need this to like, and it's not even. It's like right now I don't need to give them feedback about that. Yeah. They're not going to use that skill right now.
That's in addition to other ways that you assess for understanding. You have many ways each class. And I agree with the argument that the kids really don't. I don't believe they need a summative for what you've been doing.
They will. I mean, they do at the end, but like
in the end.
Not in the little bits, because they're all different places, right? So why give them a grade? Like they're still in the process.
And in the end, one of the biggest thrusts of your summative assessment is, can they analyze? Boy, it's a rich experience what they're going through, and the group work is presented in a way that I think they really are getting how to analyze. I wish I would have had that.
They have to share what they said. And eventually they realize that they get mixed up, and they always have to be able to try and express in the little small group. Like, and they've already had one chance to say something to someone else beforehand, right? Like a little bit. But once the expectation's there that you can't like not have done the work and then join the group, they pretty much always do their work. Yeah. Right? Because they're, some kids miss something, and you tap them on the shoulder and say next time, right?
Yeah,
like you got to listen. You got to like take the notes because you didn't do.
Yeah.
But I also don't send them back and be like, do this over again. Like everyone gets this information now, right? We get they get it presented. They get it collective. So you didn't. Next time you got to like time we gotta make up for it, you know? And they respond pretty well to that. Like, sometimes it's too, you didn't do this today on time, so stay after school and spend an hour. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, hopefully you taught them what they needed to learn and reinforced it in the hour that they were in your class, so you don't make them stay
Right.
another hour.
And the learning environment is such a welcoming environment, and it's like one that, like, duh, the relevance that comes from the book that they're reading and analyzing it, and then the questions that are presented are really relevant. So why wouldn't you want to participate in this lesson?
Yeah.
Like, it's extremely relevant, and you know, I think all the kids are into everything that's going on. I don't see anybody who's just like in like doing nothing in there, and that's good. How many kids do we know that hated English
None.
before? Oh, I know a bunch in the past